Before every breakthrough in your life, there is a moment when everything feels like it is falling apart. You feel drained, abandoned, confused, and you begin to wonder why life became so heavy so suddenly. But what if the struggle you are facing right now is not a punishment? What if it is preparation? Buddhism teaches that your hardest moments appear right before your deepest transformation. Life becomes tough not to break you, but to push you into a wiser, stronger, more awakened version of yourself. When the path grows dark, it is a sign that you are entering a new chapter of growth. So if your life feels difficult right now, don't turn away from it. Lean in, because this hardship you are experiencing may be the very gift that changes everything. 1. Pain is a mirror showing you what needs to heal. Pain is never an accident, and it is never meaningless. It may feel sudden, overwhelming, or unfair, but in reality, pain is one of the most honest teachers you will ever meet. It is not chaos, and it is not a punishment sent to break you. Pain is a form of feedback, a message from your inner world that something within you needs attention. When life becomes difficult, when your heart feels heavy, or when your mind becomes restless, it is usually because a part of you that has been ignored or pushed aside is finally rising to the surface. It might be an old wound you never fully healed, a belief that has silently limited your growth, a memory you buried because it hurt too much, or an expectation that life has repeatedly shown you is not aligned with reality. Pain reveals these things not to torment you, but to guide you. In Buddhism, suffering is described as a messenger, a gentle but persistent reminder that something inside you is out of balance. And just like a physical wound hurts to alert you that it needs care, emotional and spiritual pain appear to show you exactly where healing is required. When you feel lost, confused, or overwhelmed, it is often because your deeper self is asking you to slow down, to look inward, and to understand the root of your discomfort. Pain is the mirror that reflects the truth you may have avoided for years. It exposes what needs to be released, what needs to be forgiven, what needs to be accepted, and what needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. Most people try to escape pain by distracting themselves, denying their feelings, or pretending nothing is wrong. But the more you run, the louder pain becomes. Healing begins the moment you stop fighting the discomfort and allow yourself to sit with it, breathe through it, and ask, what is this trying to teach me? When you turn toward pain with patience instead of fear, you begin to understand yourself more deeply. You become aware of patterns you couldn't see before. You recognize which habits drain your peace, which thoughts hurt you, and which emotional wounds still need compassion. Pain is not your enemy. Avoidance is. Pain is simply pointing to the parts of your life that are ready to grow. It is guiding you toward wholeness, urging you to release what no longer serves you, and helping you discover the strength and clarity that already exist inside you. When you stop running and gently face the discomfort, a quiet transformation begins, and that transformation is where true healing takes root. 2. Hard times break the illusion of control. One of the deepest sources of human suffering comes from the belief that we can control everything. Our relationships, our future, our success, other people's actions, and even the direction of life itself. We create plans, we build expectations, and we convince ourselves that if we do everything right, life should unfold exactly the way we imagined. But the truth is much softer, much wiser, and much harder to accept. Control is an illusion. No matter how carefully you plan, life will always move according to its own rhythm. Hard times show up to break this illusion, not to hurt you but to free you. When something unexpected happens, when your plans fall apart, when a person changes, when a door closes without warning, you are reminded of how little control you truly have. And even though this realization can feel frightening, it is actually one of the most liberating truths you will ever discover. Because the moment you stop clinging to the idea that you can control everything is the moment you begin to breathe again. Buddhism teaches that attachment to outcomes is one of the main causes of suffering. We get attached to how things should be, instead of accepting how things are. We cling to people who are not meant to stay. We hold on to timelines that life never promised us. We force situations that are meant to unfold naturally. And when reality does not obey our expectations, we feel pain not because life is cruel, but because we tried to mold it into a shape it was never meant to hold. Hard times dismantle this attachment. When life shifts unexpectedly, it pushes you to loosen your grip. It teaches you that peace does not come from controlling your circumstances. It comes from learning to flow with them. You begin to realize that the more tightly you hold on, the more you suffer. And the more you allow life to move as it naturally does, the lighter your heart becomes. When you finally let go of the illusion of control, something beautiful happens. You start living with openness rather than resistance. You begin to trust timing instead of fearing it. You start accepting changes instead of fighting them. You learn to adapt, adjust, and evolve. You discover that even though you cannot control everything, you can always control how you respond. And that level of inner freedom is far more powerful than anything you could ever force externally. Hard times are not here to destroy your sense of stability. They are here to replace a fragile kind of control with a deeper kind of wisdom. A wisdom that says, I cannot control the waves, but I can learn how to move with them. Once you understand this, life becomes softer, lighter, and far less overwhelming. You stop fighting what you cannot change and begin to use your energy where it truly matters. Your peace, your choices, your growth. 3. Struggles build inner strength you didn't know you had. Most people believe strength comes from comfort, from success, or from moments when everything is going well. But Buddhism teaches something far more profound. True strength is forged in discomfort, not ease. It is shaped in the moments when life tests you, challenges your assumptions, and pushes you far beyond the boundaries of who you used to be. When everything around you feels difficult, when you are forced to face uncertainty, heartbreak, disappointment, or fear, you are actually standing inside the very training ground where your inner strength is being built. We rarely recognize our own strength until life gives us no choice but to use it. Think about all the situations you once believed you could never survive, yet you did. Think about the emotional storms that once felt impossible to bear, yet here you are still breathing, still learning, still growing. Strength does not appear when life is easy. It reveals itself when life becomes heavy. And every time you get through something painful, a new layer of resilience forms inside you, quietly, steadily, without you even noticing. Hard times stretch you in ways comfort never will. They challenge your patience, test your discipline, and force you to confront the parts of yourself you didn't even know existed. A peaceful day rarely teaches you anything, but a difficult season reshapes your mindset, your habits, your heart, and your understanding of life. Suffering becomes a kind of spiritual training, a way of revealing what you are made of. Not because you deserve pain, but because growth requires pressure. Diamonds are formed under heat, trees grow deep roots during storms, and the human heart becomes wiser and stronger through struggle. In Buddhism, this process is called transforming suffering into strength. You take the raw, painful experiences of life and turn them into wisdom, courage, and compassion. You begin to understand that every challenge is not just something to survive, but something that expands you. The version of yourself who will exist in the future, the calmer you, the wiser you, the more grounded and peaceful you depends on the challenges you are facing right now. Growth is happening even when you cannot see it. Every difficult emotion you process, every fear you face, every setback you navigate is contributing to a more resilient version of you. And here is the hidden gift. Once you develop inner strength, Life's challenges stop frightening you the way they used to. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to understand that no matter what happens, you have the power to endure, adapt, and rise again. You learn that strength is not about avoiding pain, but about knowing you can move through it without losing yourself. This kind of strength can never be taken away from you. It becomes part of your character, part of your energy, part of your spiritual identity. So when you are struggling, do not assume you are failing. Do not think you are weak just because you feel overwhelmed. You are in the process of becoming stronger, more grounded, and more awake. The challenge you are facing is not breaking you, it is building you. And one day, you will look back and realize that this exact struggle became the foundation of the strength you now carry with pride and calmness. 4. Suffering teaches you the sacred art of acceptance. One of the greatest sources of inner peace in Buddhism is the power of acceptance. But acceptance is often misunderstood. Many people think accepting something means giving up or becoming weak. They think acceptance is passive, like allowing life to walk all over you. But in reality, acceptance is one of the most powerful forms of inner strength. It is the moment you stop wasting your energy fighting what you cannot change and begin to work with life instead of against it. And the only reason people learn acceptance is because suffering forces them to. When life becomes hard, when things do not go your way, when reality looks different from your expectations, you feel frustrated, hurt, or confused. This is natural, but after struggling against reality long enough, you eventually reach a moment where your mind becomes exhausted. You realize that resisting doesn't fix anything, it only drains you. It is in this moment of emotional exhaustion that the seed of acceptance begins to grow. In Buddhism, suffering is not seen as a punishment, it is seen as a teacher. And one of its greatest lessons is learning to stop clinging to how things should be and instead embracing things as they are. Because the truth is simple. Pain is not caused by what happens to you. It is caused by your resistance to what happens. The more you insist that life must follow your plans, the more frustrated you become. The more you demand that people behave a certain way, the more disappointed you feel. Acceptance removes the extra layer of suffering that comes from fighting what is already happening. Acceptance does not mean you like what happened. It does not mean you approve of it. It simply means you stop arguing with reality. You acknowledge the truth of the moment, and from that place of clarity, you decide what to do next. Acceptance is not the end of action. It is the beginning of wise action. It clears the mind, calms the heart, and allows you to see the situation without the distortion of fear or anger. Think of a river. If you stand in the middle of it and try to push the water back upstream, you exhaust yourself and accomplish nothing. But if you learn to move with the current instead of against it, the river becomes easier to navigate. Life works the same way. The more you resist what is already true, the more suffering you create for yourself. But when you accept the truth, even when it is painful, you allow yourself to flow with life rather than fight it. Hard times teach this lesson better than anything else. When something happens that you cannot change, life gives you two options: fight against it and suffer, or accept it and grow. Most people choose resistance because it feels familiar, but eventually they realize that acceptance is the doorway to peace. Acceptance does not erase the difficulty, but it removes the unnecessary suffering that comes from denial, frustration, and fear. The moment you accept what is happening, your energy shifts. You stop feeling powerless because you are no longer fighting the impossible. Instead, you use your strength wisely toward healing, toward adjusting, toward finding meaning, toward taking the next right step. Acceptance opens a quiet space inside you, a space where wisdom, clarity, and peace naturally arise. And here is the most beautiful part. Once you learn the art of acceptance, life becomes less frightening. You begin to trust that even when things don't go your way, you still have the power to find calmness, to adapt, and to choose your response. Your peace becomes independent of circumstances. You start to understand that you do not need everything to be perfect in order to feel okay inside. This is the sacred lesson that suffering teaches. Life becomes lighter when you stop resisting the weight you cannot change. 5. Hard moments strip away what no longer belongs in your life. There are seasons in life when everything feels like it is falling apart. Relationships end, plans collapse, habits stop working, people drift away, and the things that once brought you comfort suddenly feel heavy. In these moments, it is easy to believe something has gone terribly wrong. But in Buddhism, these experiences are understood as a natural and necessary part of spiritual growth. Hard moments do not come to destroy your life. They come to clear it. They remove what has reached its ending, so something new and more aligned can begin. Every human being carries things that were once right for them, but no longer match who they are becoming. It might be a belief you inherited from childhood, a relationship that no longer feels authentic, a habit that drains your energy, an environment that suppresses your growth, or a version of yourself you have outgrown. These things do not fall away easily, because the mind clings to what is familiar even when it is unhealthy. So, when you resist letting go, life steps in. Hard moments appear to loosen your grip. They push away what you refuse to release on your own. This is why painful endings often happen suddenly. This is why certain connections fade without warning. This is why opportunities slip through your fingers even when you tried so hard to hold on to them. It is not because you are unlucky. It is because the universe removes what no longer serves your growth, way before you understand why. Tough times act like a cleansing storm, clearing out the old energy, the old attachments, and the old identities that are weighing down your spirit. Think about it. Every time something or someone leaves your life, a space opens, and in that space, there is room for something new, something healthier, something more aligned, something that matches who you are becoming. But if nothing ever fell apart, if nothing ever left, that space would never exist. You would remain trapped in the same cycles, repeating the same lessons, carrying the same weight, and wondering why your life never changes. In Buddhism, letting go is one of the central teachings, yet it is one of the hardest for human beings to practice. We cling because we fear emptiness. We cling because we fear change. We cling because we fear being alone. But what we often fail to realize is that clinging is what causes the real suffering, not the loss itself. Holding on to something that life is trying to remove is like gripping a rope that is being pulled away. The tighter you hold, the more your hands bleed. Hard moments pull that rope from your hands, not to hurt you, but to free you. They remove the relationships that drain your peace. They expose the habits that sabotage your growth. They reveal the fears that hold you hostage. They remove the illusions you hide behind. They break the versions of you that can no longer survive your next chapter. Without this removal, you would remain stuck in a life too small for your potential. There is a quiet wisdom behind every loss, a deeper meaning behind every ending. When something leaves your life, it is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of transformation. The universe is not taking from you, it is preparing you. It is making space for the people who are meant to support your growth, for opportunities that match your energy, for lessons that strengthen you, for a life that aligns with your spirit rather than your fears. But to receive this new chapter, you must allow the old one to close. You must let the storm pass. You must trust the process of release, even when it feels painful. You must be willing to believe that emptiness is not the enemy. Emptiness is potential. Emptiness is space. Emptiness is the beginning of creation. Only when your hands are empty can you hold something new. One day, you will look back at the things you lost and realize they were not losses at all. They were transitions. They were necessary endings. They were spiritual pruning. They were the clearing that allowed your soul to breathe again. And you will understand that the hard moments that felt like punishment were actually the moments that protected you, redirected you, and made room for something far better than what you were fighting to keep. 6. You grow the most when life forces you to slow down. In today's world, most people are constantly rushing toward goals, rushing toward success, rushing toward distractions, rushing away from their own thoughts. We fill our days with noise because silence feels uncomfortable. We keep ourselves busy because stillness feels unfamiliar. And without realizing it, we begin to measure our worth by how much we do rather than who we are. But Buddhism teaches something profoundly different. True growth does not happen when life is moving fast. True growth happens when life slows you down, sometimes so suddenly and so painfully that you are forced to sit still with yourself. Hard times have a way of interrupting your pace. They stop your plans, challenge your routines, and force you to pause. And even though this pause can feel frustrating, frightening, or confusing, it is not a punishment. It is a turning point. Life slows you down because your soul has been moving too fast for you to hear it. When everything is easy and predictable, you rarely look inward. You rarely question your choices, your habits, your relationships, or your direction. But when life becomes difficult, and you can no longer distract yourself with busyness, you finally begin to notice what is happening inside you. In Buddhism, this pause is sacred. It is the doorway to awakening, the moment when the mind becomes quiet enough for truth to surface. When life slows down, all the things you ignored begin to speak. Your emotions rise to the surface. Your intuition gets louder. Your body sends signals you used to silence. Old wounds you avoided begin to reappear. Patterns you repeated unconsciously become visible. Instead of running from these inner truths, the pause forces you to face them, understand them, and process them. And although this inward journey can feel overwhelming, it is one of the most transformative experiences a person can have. Slowing down is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that life is guiding you back to yourself. The version of you who is meant to emerge, the wiser you, the more grounded you, the more peaceful you, cannot be born through constant movement. Growth requires reflection. Healing requires presence. Transformation requires silence. And the only way life can push you into this silence is by giving you moments that force you to stop. Think of how many breakthroughs people experience only after life becomes difficult. A heartbreak leads to self-discovery. A failure leads to a new direction. A setback reveals a hidden strength. A period of loneliness brings deeper understanding. These moments slow your pace, not to break your spirit, but to allow you to see your life with clearer eyes. When you stop running, you begin to understand what truly matters, what truly hurts, what truly needs attention, and what truly aligns with your heart. When life slows you down, you begin to realize how much unnecessary weight you were carrying. You notice how many things you were saying yes to simply to avoid discomfort. You notice how many responsibilities you took on just to feel valuable. You notice how often you silenced your own needs to make others happy. Slowing down becomes the doorway through which you reevaluate your life, not from fear, but from honesty. And this is where profound growth begins, in the quiet recognition that you cannot continue living the way you were. Hard times become the catalyst that shifts your priorities. You start letting go of things that drain your energy. You begin to protect your peace. You make more intentional choices. You stop chasing validation. You begin honoring your boundaries. You start listening to your body. You become kinder to yourself. This is the kind of growth that cannot happen in motion. It can only happen in stillness. Buddhism teaches that inner awakening happens when the mind is calm enough to see reality clearly. Life slows you down so you can finally hear the wisdom within you, the wisdom that was drowned beneath noise, busyness, and distraction. You begin to see your journey not as a race, but as a practice of becoming. You understand that slowing down is not falling behind, it is catching up to your soul. And here is the truth most people realize only after their hardest moments. The pause you resisted so much was the very pause that saved you. It made you rebuild yourself. It made you rethink your life. It made you rediscover your values. It made you return to the present moment instead of living in the future or the past. Life slowed you down because you were meant to grow in a direction you could not see while moving too fast. One day, you will look back on this period of stillness, the discomfort, the uncertainty, the emotional heaviness, and recognize that it was not a setback. It was a reset, a cleansing, a rebirth, a quiet but powerful turning point that allowed you to become more aware, more compassionate, more intentional, and more alive than you have ever been. This is why the slow, silent seasons of your life are not to be feared. They are the moments when you meet the truest version of yourself. 7. Tough times awaken a stronger, more compassionate version of you. Every human being carries two versions of themselves, the one shaped by comfort and the one shaped by adversity. The first version learns through ease, routine, and predictability. It is gentle, hopeful, and open-hearted. But the second version, the one shaped through difficulty, is wiser, more grounded, more patient, and far more compassionate than the first could ever be. Buddhism teaches that suffering is not merely something to survive. It is something that transforms the very structure of your inner world. It refines your perception. It softens your heart. It awakens a depth of compassion, strength, and understanding that could not exist without the experience of hardship. When you go through difficult times, something changes inside you. You begin to see the world differently. You start noticing what truly matters. You stop taking small blessings for granted. You understand pain in a way you never understood it before. And because of that understanding, you become gentler with others. Suddenly, someone's silence does not irritate you. You wonder if they are carrying something heavy. Someone's anger does not trigger you. You recognize it might be coming from a place of deep hurt. Someone's distance does not make you feel rejected. You understand that people sometimes withdraw because they do not know how to ask for help. Hardship expands your capacity to empathize, not because you become weaker, but because you become more human. In Buddhism, compassion is considered one of the highest forms of wisdom. To be compassionate does not mean to pity others. It means to understand the nature of suffering so deeply that your heart responds with patience instead of judgment. But how does someone develop this level of understanding? They develop it by walking through their own suffering. When you experience emotional pain, heartbreak, loss, disappointment, or uncertainty, you begin to understand what others may be experiencing in their own unseen battles. You realize that everyone carries invisible burdens. Everyone is fighting something. Everyone is healing from something. And because your own heart has been cracked open, you see the world with softer eyes. Tough times also develop another quality that comfort rarely teaches: inner strength. Not the loud, aggressive strength that comes from ego, but the quiet, unshakable strength that arises when you realize you have already survived the things you once feared. You learn that you are stronger than your emotions, wiser than your past, and more capable than you ever believed. Strength becomes something you carry in your energy, not in your words. You do not need to announce it, prove it, or display it. It exists within you like a silent anchor, keeping you grounded even when life becomes chaotic. This inner strength is not built in moments of ease. It is forged in your darkest nights, when you thought you had nothing left to give, yet somehow found a way to keep going. It comes from the days when you got out of bed, even though your heart felt heavy. From the nights you cried quietly, but still woke up the next morning and faced the world. From the moments you felt alone, misunderstood, or defeated, yet you did not allow despair to control your future. This strength does not appear suddenly. It builds slowly, quietly, through every challenge you endure. And the beautiful paradox is this: the same experiences that hardened your life softened your heart. You become more understanding, but also more discerning. You become more compassionate, but also more protective of your peace. You become more giving, but also more aware of who deserves your time and energy. Tough times refine your boundaries just as much as they expand your empathy. You learn to value yourself not through pride, but through self-respect. You learn to say no not from anger, but from clarity. You learn to walk away not from bitterness, but from wisdom. Another profound transformation that arises from hardship is the development of resilience. Resilience is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about acknowledging the difficulty, facing it with honesty, and still choosing to move forward. You begin to understand that setbacks are not the end of your journey, they are part of it. Instead of breaking you, they build your endurance. Instead of shutting you down, they open new pathways within you. You learn that life does not always go according to your plans, but it always goes according to its purpose. With each challenge, you grow more adaptable, more flexible, more patient, and more capable of navigating uncertainty. In Buddhism, this resilience is connected to the concept of non-attachment. When life challenges you repeatedly, you slowly begin to let go of rigid expectations. You stop insisting that things must unfold in a specific way. Instead, you learn to meet life as it is, not as you want it to be. This shift creates an inner freedom that cannot be taken away. You stop fighting every difficulty. You stop trying to control every outcome. You stop resisting every change. Instead, you begin to trust the process. You allow life to teach you. You allow yourself to grow. You understand that even when life feels painful, you are not being punished, you are being shaped. Hardships also reveal the truth about the people around you. When you face difficult moments, relationships are tested. Some people disappear because they were only attached to the easy parts of you. Others remain, showing you love, loyalty, and presence in ways you never expected. Tough times highlight who is genuine and who is seasonal. They show you who truly cares for your well-being and who was only there for convenience. While this revelation can feel painful, it is also incredibly freeing. When you come out of a difficult season, your circle becomes smaller but more meaningful. The people who remain are the ones who align with your heart, not your circumstances. Most importantly, tough times guide you back to yourself. When life becomes overwhelming, many people initially try to escape through distractions, routines, or denial. But eventually, the suffering forces you inward. You begin to sit with your emotions instead of suppressing them. You begin to listen to your thoughts instead of drowning them out. You begin to question your patterns, your values, your beliefs, and your direction. This self-reflection becomes the beginning of a deeper relationship with yourself, one rooted not in avoidance, but in understanding. Over time, you discover parts of yourself that you never realized existed. You uncover strength you didn't know you had, softness you didn't know was possible, and wisdom that comes only from lived experience. You become more authentic, more aware, and more aligned. You stop pretending to be someone you are not. You stop chasing things that do not nourish your soul. You stop seeking validation from those who cannot understand you. Instead, you begin to trust yourself. You begin to respect your inner voice. You begin to live more consciously and intentionally. By the time you emerge from the difficult season, you are not the same person who entered it. You have grown in ways that cannot be measured from the outside. Your confidence is quieter but deeper. Your sensitivity is stronger but wiser. Your heart is softer but more protected. Your mind is clearer but more open. You have become someone who responds to life with presence rather than panic, with understanding rather than judgment, and with faith rather than fear. This is the hidden gift of tough times. They awaken the truest, strongest, most compassionate version of you. They strip away the layers of who you were and reveal who you were always meant to become. And although the journey through suffering is painful, the person who emerges from it is someone filled with depth, clarity, and quiet power, a person who understands life more profoundly and loves more gently than before. 8. Every hard season prepares you for a life you cannot see yet. There are moments in life when everything feels uncertain. Your plans stop working, the future becomes blurry, and you find yourself standing in a place you never expected to be. It is in these moments that you begin to question everything: your decisions, your purpose, your path, even your worth. You may wonder why life is so difficult, why things are not moving forward, why your efforts seem to go unnoticed, or why you feel stuck in a chapter that refuses to end. But Buddhism teaches that these seasons of stagnation, confusion, and hardship are not empty. They are preparation. You are being shaped for a life that you are not yet ready to enter, a life that requires a wiser mind, a stronger heart, and a more grounded spirit than the one you have right now. Most people believe growth happens when life is moving smoothly, but deep transformation rarely happens in comfort. Growth happens in the moments when life challenges your assumptions, stretches your limits, removes your illusions, and forces you to confront the parts of yourself that you normally avoid. You are not being held back, you are being prepared. And preparation seasons are often disguised as delays, disappointments, obstacles, and emotional heaviness. These experiences are not signs that life is against you. They are signs that life is building you for something more aligned, more meaningful, and more purposeful. Think about every time your life suddenly shifted. You might have lost something you thought you needed. You might have been redirected away from something you desperately wanted. You might have been slowed down, broken open, humbled, or isolated. At the time, it felt painful. It felt unfair. It felt confusing. But later, you realized those exact moments were the turning points that guided you toward a better direction. The job you didn't get pushed you toward a path that suited your soul. The relationship that ended taught you who you really are and what you truly deserve. The painful lesson showed you what no amount of comfort ever could. The detour became the beginning of a new version of you. In Buddhism, this is known as skillful unfolding. Life does not punish you, it rearranges you. It removes what blocks your growth and makes space for what aligns with your spirit. But this rearrangement often feels uncomfortable because it forces you to release attachments, expectations, and identities that you have carried for years. You may not understand why certain things are falling apart, but the deeper truth is that life is clearing the way for something you have not yet imagined. You are being upgraded from the inside out, even if it feels like everything is falling apart on the outside. Hard seasons teach you skills that an easy life never will. They teach you resilience, how to stand again even when you feel tired. They teach you patience, how to trust timing even when the future feels uncertain. They teach you self-awareness, how to observe your mind, your patterns, and your emotions without becoming controlled by them. They teach you clarity, how to differentiate between what nourishes you and what drains you. And most importantly, they teach you surrender, how to release your grip on the illusion of control and allow life to unfold naturally. You begin to understand that life does not align with your plans. Your plans must align with life. When you fight this natural flow, you suffer, but when you accept it, you find peace. The storms of your life are not meant to drown you. They are meant to cleanse you. The challenges are not meant to break you. They are meant to rebuild you. The delays are not meant to frustrate you. They are meant to shape you. Every hard season refines you in ways that comfort never could. Imagine a seed planted deep in the soil. Before it rises into the light, it must endure darkness, pressure, and isolation. It must break open. From the outside, it looks like destruction, but inside, it is transformation. You are that seed. The darkness you are experiencing is not the end. It is the beginning of something new. The pressure you feel is not punishment. It is expansion. You are being broken open so that the truest version of you can grow. In the same way, a caterpillar must dissolve completely inside its cocoon before becoming a butterfly. Everything it once was must fall apart so it can become something it could never have been if it remained the same. Your difficult season is your cocoon. It is the place where your old self dissolves and your new self begins to form, even if you cannot see the transformation yet. Growth is happening beneath the surface, silently, slowly, but powerfully. And because you cannot see the transformation, the waiting feels heavy. You may feel stuck, unmotivated, lost, or disconnected from yourself. But this feeling is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of transition. You are shedding old layers, old habits, old fears, old identities, old beliefs, old attachments, and that shedding is exhausting. You are releasing the version of yourself that belonged to your past so you can breathe as the person who belongs to your future. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes trust, but it is happening. Another important truth is this: the best opportunities, relationships, and life chapters often require a version of you that you haven't yet become. You cannot enter a new life with old patterns. You cannot maintain a healthy relationship with an unhealed heart. You cannot step into a higher purpose with a fearful mindset. You cannot receive abundance while clinging to scarcity. You cannot walk a new path with the same limiting beliefs. Life delays certain things not because you are unworthy, but because you are not yet prepared to hold what you are asking for. Preparation seasons strengthen your character. They sharpen your discernment. They deepen your compassion. They align your values. They clarify your priorities. They build your emotional endurance. They teach you how to handle disappointment with grace and how to rebuild your life with wisdom instead of desperation. And then one day, after all the confusion, heaviness, and internal struggle, something shifts. Something aligns. Something becomes clear. The pieces of your life begin to fit together in a way you did not expect. People enter your life who match your growth. Opportunities appear that align with your purpose. The clarity you were searching for suddenly arrives with ease. And you realize that everything you went through prepared you for this moment. You finally understand that life was not delaying you. It was shaping you. You realize that the moments you thought were wasted were actually essential. The doors that closed were protecting you. The people who left were part of your evolution. The emotions you struggled with were guiding you inward. The silence you feared became the space where your wisdom was born. The pain you hated became the source of your compassion. The slow seasons you resisted became the foundation of your strength. This is why Buddhism teaches that nothing in your life is meaningless. Not the heartbreaks, not the losses, not the setbacks, not the delays, not the disappointments. Every experience is a stepping stone. Every challenge is preparation. Every moment is part of your awakening. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are becoming. And when you finally step into the life that is meant for you, you will look back at your hardest seasons and realize they were not obstacles. They were the training ground for the person you were destined to become. 9. The hardest chapters of your life become the wisdom you give to others. There is a profound truth in Buddhism that many people only understand after they have walked through their darkest moments. The suffering you endure today becomes the wisdom you will share tomorrow. Your hardest experiences, those moments when you felt lost, broken, forgotten, or overwhelmed, are not just painful memories. They are shaping you into someone who can guide, support, and uplift others in ways you never imagined. The very storms that nearly crushed you become the teachings that help someone else find shelter. The moments you thought would destroy you become the stories that help someone else survive. Human beings are connected not through perfection, but through struggle. No one relates to someone who has never fallen, never cried, never doubted themselves, or never questioned their path. We connect with those who have walked through fire and still found a way to rise. We trust the people who admit they have been broken, who have felt pain, who have confronted their fears, who have rebuilt their lives piece by piece. We listen to the ones who have lived through experiences that we are now trying to understand. Your suffering does not isolate you. It prepares you to connect deeply with others. Every time you survive something painful, you gain a new layer of understanding. You begin to see things others cannot see. You recognize wounds in other people because you carry similar ones. You notice silent struggles because you have lived through them yourself. You hear the pain behind someone's words, even when they're smiling. You sense the heaviness in someone's heart, even when they say they're fine. Your own suffering becomes a kind of inner compass, helping you navigate the emotions of others with compassion rather than judgment. This is why the people who have gone through the most are often the gentlest. They do not speak harshly because they know words can wound. They do not dismiss others' feelings because they know how deeply emotions can cut. They do not laugh at someone's fears because they understand how real fear can feel. They do not ignore someone's sadness because they remember how heavy sadness once felt inside their own chest. There is a softness in those who have suffered, a depth that cannot be faked, a sincerity that cannot be learned from books. This softness is not weakness, it is wisdom. In Buddhism, wisdom is not measured by how much you know, but by how deeply you understand suffering, your own and others. The Buddha taught that wisdom arises directly from lived experience. When you go through darkness, confusion, heartbreak, or loss, you begin seeing life with clearer eyes. You understand impermanence. You understand the fragility of happiness. You understand the importance of kindness. You understand that everyone is carrying invisible burdens. You understand that life can change in an instant. This understanding shapes your character in ways comfort never could. Your suffering becomes the foundation of your empathy. It gives you the ability to sit with someone who is hurting without trying to fix them, change them, or rush their healing. It gives you the patience to listen without judgment and the humility to admit you do not have all the answers. It gives you the courage to speak truthfully and the compassion to speak gently. Most importantly, it gives you the wisdom to recognize that healing is not something you force, it is something you allow. The wisdom that emerges from your suffering does not appear all at once. It grows slowly, quietly, beneath the surface of your life. At first, all you feel is the pain. Then, over time, that pain begins to shift. You begin to understand the lesson behind it. You begin to see the reason for it. You begin to notice how much you have changed because of it. You begin to see the strength you gained, the boundaries you learned, the clarity you found, and the courage you didn't know you had. Eventually, you realize that your suffering did not break you. It built you. And then something beautiful happens. You begin to help others without even trying. Your presence alone becomes comforting. The way you speak, the way you listen, the way you care, it all becomes medicine for people who are hurting. You don't need to pretend to be wise. You don't need to memorize spiritual teachings. You don't need to force advice. Your life becomes the lesson. Your story becomes the teaching. Your healing becomes the guidance. You become the person you once needed when you were struggling. When someone cries, you don't rush them, you sit beside them. When someone doubts themselves, you remind them gently of their strength. When someone feels lost, you guide them without controlling them. When someone feels alone, you become the proof that connection still exists. You become the light you searched for when you were in the dark. This is how suffering transforms into purpose. Many people spend years asking why they had to go through what they did. They ask why life allowed them to suffer, why things were taken from them, why certain people hurt them, or why they had to carry burdens they never asked for. But later, sometimes years later, they meet someone who is going through the same pain they once carried. And in that moment, everything makes sense. Their suffering becomes someone else's comfort. Their healing becomes someone else's hope. Their story becomes someone else's strength. And for the first time, their pain feels meaningful. This is one of the deepest truths in Buddhism. When you transform your suffering into wisdom, you elevate not only yourself, but everyone around you. Your life becomes a living example of resilience. You show others that healing is possible. You show them that transformation is real. You show them that even the deepest wounds can close, even the darkest nights can end, and even the heaviest pain can change shape. You may not realize this, but people who meet you in the future will benefit from the pain you are experiencing right now. Your compassion will soothe them. Your insight will guide them. Your patience will strengthen them. Your survival will inspire them. Every hardship you face becomes a tool you will one day use to help someone else rise. And this is the miracle hidden inside every difficult chapter of your life. Your suffering becomes your service, not because you owe the world anything, but because your heart naturally expands when it has been stretched by hardship. You become a better friend, a better partner, a better parent, a better human being. You learn to love more deeply, respond more thoughtfully, and live more consciously. Your perspective widens, your spirit softens, your wisdom grows. One day someone will thank you, not for being perfect, but for being real, for sharing your truth, for listening with compassion, for understanding their pain without needing explanations, for offering a light that only someone who has known darkness can offer. And in that moment, you will understand why life made you walk through the experiences that shaped you. The greatest teachers are not the ones who have never struggled. The greatest teachers are the ones who transformed their suffering into light. Your hardest chapters are not your tragedy. They are your training. They are turning you into someone capable of touching the lives of others in a way only you can. And every day you heal, you move closer to becoming the person whose presence alone is a gift in this world. 10. Life's toughest moments reveal your true path and purpose. Every person reaches a stage in life where nothing seems to make sense anymore. The things that once motivated you lose their meaning. The goals you once chased no longer inspire you. The relationships that once felt alive begin to drift. The dreams you once held tightly begin to feel distant or empty. This is a deeply uncomfortable stage of the human journey. But Buddhism teaches that this stage is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of awakening. It means life is gently guiding you away from a path that no longer aligns with your soul and toward the purpose you were truly meant to live. You may not realize it yet, but the moments when your life falls apart are often the moments when your real life begins. When something you relied on breaks, when something familiar ends, when a chapter closes unexpectedly, you are pushed into a space you would never have entered willingly. It feels frightening because it is unknown. It feels painful because it disrupts your comfort. It feels disorienting because it removes the illusions you built your identity upon. But this disruption is necessary because without it, you might spend your entire life walking a path that is not truly yours. In Buddhism, there is a profound teaching. The path reveals itself when you stop forcing life to follow your expectations. But most people never learn this until life gives them no choice. As long as everything goes according to plan, the mind becomes convinced that it knows what is right. The ego clings to its ideas of success, happiness, and purpose. You tell yourself, "This is who I am," and "this is what I want," without realizing that many of these beliefs were shaped by fear, society, past wounds, or the desire to be accepted. It is only when your plans collapse, when things stop working, that the deeper truth begins to emerge. When life becomes difficult, when you feel lost or broken, this is often the moment your true path begins to whisper to you. Pain quiets the noise of the world. Loss breaks the illusions you relied on. Discomfort forces you to look inward. And in that inward space, you begin to hear your authentic self. the part of you that knows why you are here, what you are meant to learn, what you are meant to release, and what you are meant to become. Hard seasons also reveal what is real and what is not. When you are struggling, the superficial parts of your life fall away. People who are not meant for your journey disconnect. Goals that were driven by ego crumble. Attachments that once controlled you lose their power. And although each of these losses feels painful, they bring clarity. They show you who you truly are beneath the layers of expectation, fear, and identity you collected over the years. You begin to recognize what deeply matters to you, what feels authentic, and what brings peace rather than stress. Life uses difficult moments to redirect you. Sometimes the redirection is gentle, like a soft whisper in your heart, telling you to rethink your choices. Other times it is sudden, like a door slamming shut without warning. But regardless of the form it takes, the purpose is the same: to guide you toward a life that aligns with your soul, not your fear. And because human beings often resist change, life must sometimes use discomfort to push you toward the direction you are meant to take. Think of a river flowing naturally. If you throw a rock into the river, the water does not fight the rock. It simply flows around it, finding a new path. But humans often cling to the rock, insisting that the river should continue flowing in the old direction. When life places obstacles on your path, you are not meant to push stubbornly against them. You are meant to flow around them. Obstacles are not always signs to try harder. They are often signs to turn, redirect, release, or evolve. The moments you call setbacks are often spiritual recalibrations. They shift you away from choices that would have limited your growth. They remove relationships that would have kept you small. They end chapters that have reached their natural conclusion. They expose internal patterns that were blocking your evolution. They reveal fears that must be released before you can move forward. Without these disruptions, you might never evolve into the person you are meant to become. The painful truth is that most people only discover their purpose through hardship. Purpose does not reveal itself when everything is easy. It reveals itself when you are forced to confront your deepest questions. Who am I really? What do I truly want? What is worth my time and energy? What aligns with my heart? What brings me peace? These questions only arise when life slows you down, breaks your routine, or removes something you felt dependent on. The more painful the moment, the deeper the question it awakens. Pain also awakens intuition. When your external world becomes uncertain, you begin to seek guidance from within. You start listening to your inner voice, the quiet, steady wisdom that has always been there beneath the noise of your daily life. This inner voice knows which relationships are good for you and which ones drain you. It knows which dreams are yours and which dreams were imposed on you. It knows when you are forcing a path and when you are flowing naturally. During difficult seasons, intuition becomes louder because everything else becomes quiet. Your struggles also strengthen your discernment. You begin to see the difference between what feels right and what only looks right. Something can look perfect from the outside, but drain your soul from the inside. Something can look uncertain or risky, but feel deeply aligned with your inner truth. You start choosing based on energy rather than appearance, based on inner resonance rather than external approval. This shift marks the beginning of authentic living. Another profound transformation happens during hard seasons. You begin to let go of identities that no longer fit you. Perhaps you were the strong one, the responsible one, the quiet one, the successful one, or the people pleaser. These identities worked for you at one stage of your life, but now they limit who you are becoming. Life uses challenges to break these outdated identities, allowing you to grow into a more expansive, authentic version of yourself. The person you were 5 years ago, 1 year ago, even 6 months ago, is not the person your soul needs you to be now. You begin to realize that purpose is not a single destination, it is an unfolding. It changes as you grow. It deepens as you awaken. It shifts as your consciousness expands. And every difficult season brings you closer to the next layer of your purpose. You are being shaped slowly, deliberately, thoughtfully. Every moment of confusion is clearing space for clarity. Every moment of pain is expanding your heart. Every moment of uncertainty is strengthening your intuition. Every moment of loss is redirecting your path. Eventually, the storm subsides, the darkness lifts, the confusion softens, and you begin to see the path ahead with new eyes. You realize that the things you lost were not meant to stay. The dreams that faded were not aligned. The people who left were not part of your future. The failures that hurt you were preparing you. The challenges that overwhelmed you were strengthening you. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was meaningless. Everything served a purpose. The path you now walk will feel different. You will feel a sense of inner alignment you didn't have before. Your decisions will feel clearer. Your boundaries will feel stronger. Your relationships will feel more honest. Your goals will feel more purposeful. Your heart will feel lighter. You will finally begin to understand why life had to remove certain things and why it had to slow you down before allowing you to move forward. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom. Your purpose is revealed to you through the very moments you wish never happened. Suffering awakens clarity. Loss awakens direction. Silence awakens intuition. Hardship awakens truth. And when all these awakenings come together, you step into a life that feels more authentic, more peaceful, and more aligned with your soul than anything you planned for yourself. Your toughest moments do not pull you off your path. They place you on the path meant for you. 11. Tough times teach you the art of finding peace within yourself, not around you. Human beings spend much of their lives searching for peace in the outside world. We try to find it in relationships, in success, in recognition, in stability, in routine, in people, and in circumstances we believe will finally make us feel safe. But life has a way of showing us that external peace is fragile. It can disappear when a relationship ends, when a job is lost, when plans fail, when people change, or when something unexpected happens. The peace we cling to outside ourselves can be taken from us at any moment, and it is often during the hardest seasons of life that we realize this truth. Buddhism teaches that real peace, the kind that lasts, the kind that carries you through storms, the kind that remains unshaken, must come from within, not from what surrounds you. When life becomes difficult, when everything around you feels unstable, your mind naturally looks outward for something to hold on to. You search for answers, comfort, validation, reassurance, or distraction. You want someone or something to make the pain go away. But the more you seek stability outside yourself, the more unstable you feel. Life uses these moments of intense discomfort to teach you a profound spiritual lesson. Nothing outside you can give you the peace your soul is longing for. External circumstances may bring temporary relief, but they cannot provide lasting tranquility. Only when you learn to turn inward to your breath, your awareness, your presence, your consciousness, do you begin to experience peace that survives uncertainty. Hard times force you to sit with yourself. They strip away the noise, the distractions, the routines, and the illusions you once relied on to feel safe. They push you back into your own heart, your own mind, your own inner world. And this return to yourself is uncomfortable at first, because most people have spent years avoiding their inner world. They distract themselves to avoid feeling their emotions. They stay busy to avoid confronting their thoughts. They surround themselves with noise because silence brings up truths they are not ready to face. But when life becomes heavy, you can no longer run from yourself. You must face your own mind. You must face your own wounds. You must face your own truth. This is the beginning of inner peace, the ability to sit with yourself without needing anything else to make you feel whole. The first stage of this journey is difficult. When you turn inward, you begin to feel emotions you have suppressed for years: fear, loneliness, grief, anger, insecurity, self-doubt. These emotions rise to the surface not to punish you, but to free you. You cannot release what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. The presence of these emotions is a sign that your inner world is awakening, reorganizing, and preparing to transform. Meditation in Buddhism teaches this beautifully. You do not clear your mind to escape your thoughts. You clear your mind to observe them without being controlled by them. As you continue to look inward, you begin to understand that inner peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of awareness. It comes from watching your thoughts without believing all of them. It comes from feeling your emotions without being swallowed by them. It comes from noticing your fears without letting them dictate your behavior. It comes from observing the mind the way you would observe the sky, sometimes clear, sometimes stormy, but always changing. This awareness creates space, and in that space, suffering begins to lose its hold over you. Another truth you discover during hard times is that inner peace is a skill, not a gift. It must be practiced, developed, strengthened, and nurtured. You train your mind the same way you train a muscle, with consistency, patience, and compassion. You learn to breathe deeply in moments of anxiety. You learn to ground yourself when your thoughts spiral. You learn to pause before reacting to your emotions. You learn to question the stories your mind creates. You learn to let go of thoughts that do not serve you. And slowly, day by day, peace becomes something you can access rather than something you must chase. Life's toughest seasons accelerate this training. They place you in situations where your usual coping mechanisms fail. You are forced to discover new ways of dealing with stress, disappointment, uncertainty, and fear. You are pushed to develop emotional strength you never knew you had. You are guided to deepen your relationship with yourself because the outside world feels too unstable to rely on. In these moments, the seeds of inner peace are planted. Buddhism teaches that everything you seek externally already exists within you. The peace you want from the world is actually a peace you must first create inside your own mind. When you understand this, life's storms lose their power. You begin to realize that external circumstances may influence your mood, but they do not have to control your inner state. You learn to remain centered even when things go wrong. You learn to remain calm even when people disappoint you. You learn to remain grounded even when the future feels uncertain. This does not mean you become emotionless. Inner peace does not numb you, it stabilizes you. You still feel sadness, but it does not consume you. You still feel fear, but it does not paralyze you. You still feel anger, but it does not control you. You still feel disappointment, but it does not break you. You become someone who can experience the full range of human emotions without losing the ability to return to yourself. One of the deepest forms of inner peace comes from learning to trust life. When you stop resisting what is happening and allow yourself to move with the flow of your experience, your suffering decreases naturally. Resistance is what creates tension. Acceptance, true acceptance, not resignation, creates spaciousness. You no longer cling to the past or panic about the future. You meet each moment as it is with clarity and presence. This is the essence of Buddhist mindfulness, the art of being fully here. Through hardship, you also learn the importance of self-compassion. Many people treat themselves harshly when life becomes difficult. They blame themselves for struggling. They criticize themselves for feeling overwhelmed. They tell themselves they should be stronger, better, calmer, or more in control. But self-compassion teaches that inner peace grows when you treat yourself the way you would treat someone you love, with patience, understanding, and kindness. Your suffering becomes easier to carry when you stop fighting yourself internally. Over time, something extraordinary begins to happen. What once triggered you no longer has the same power. What once frightened you no longer controls you. What once overwhelmed you no longer destabilizes you. You begin to notice a quiet strength within yourself, a strength that does not come from forcing or suppressing, but from understanding and allowing. You begin to trust yourself, trust your ability to handle life, trust your inner wisdom. This trust becomes the foundation of inner peace. And then, unexpectedly, you realize something profound. The peace you were chasing in the outside world was inside you all along. It did not come from perfect circumstances. It did not come from external validation. It did not come from other people. It came from meeting yourself fully, your emotions, your fears, your thoughts, your wounds, and learning how to hold them with awareness instead of judgment. When you reach this stage, tough times no longer feel like punishments. You begin to see them as teachers. You understand that every challenge made you stronger. Every moment of confusion made you wiser. Every setback made you more resilient. Every loss brought you closer to your true self. And every difficult chapter pushed you deeper into the place where real peace is found, within your own being. This is the gift hidden inside suffering. It brings you home to yourself. You become someone who can walk through life with a calm heart, even when the world is noisy. Someone who can face uncertainty with clarity. Someone who can love without fear. Someone who can forgive without weakness. Someone who can surrender without losing power. Someone who understands that peace is not something you find, but something you create through the way you relate to your own mind. Your relationship with life changes forever when you learn this truth. Hard times no longer break you, they awaken you. 12. Tough times show you that happiness was never in the outside world. It was a state of mind you had to build. Human beings spend years, sometimes their entire lives, chasing happiness through things outside themselves. We believe that once we get the perfect relationship, the perfect career, the perfect approval from others, the perfect level of comfort, the perfect version of ourselves, then happiness will finally appear. We tell ourselves, "I will be happy when," without realizing that every moment we delay our happiness, we strengthen the illusion that happiness is something external, distant, and dependent on forces beyond our control. But tough times have a way of breaking this illusion with undeniable clarity. When life becomes difficult, when everything you depended on begins to shake, you realize that the happiness you were chasing was fragile, temporary, and incomplete. Buddhism teaches that true happiness, what is known as inner joy or sukha, has nothing to do with circumstances and everything to do with the quality of your mind. But most people cannot understand this truth while life is comfortable. It is only during hardship, when external pleasures fail to comfort you, that you realize happiness must come from a deeper source. Tough times force you to see that nothing outside you can guarantee lasting joy. A person can leave, a job can change, money can disappear, circumstances can shift, and plans can collapse. If your happiness depends on these things, then your happiness will collapse with them. This realization is painful, but it is also liberating. It pushes you to stop chasing happiness and start building it. It forces you to ask deeper questions. What does happiness really mean to me? What makes my heart feel at peace? Not excited, not distracted, but truly peaceful. Why do I expect the world to give me what I should be creating within myself? These are not questions most people ask until life pushes them to their emotional limits. Hard times are often the invitation to finally examine the roots of your happiness, your suffering, and your expectations. In Buddhism, the idea that suffering leads to awakening is one of the most profound teachings. When your outer world no longer provides comfort, you are guided inward. And in that inward journey, you begin to discover that happiness is not a destination, but a practice. It is not something you find. It is something you cultivate. It is built through habits, awareness, gratitude, compassion, balance, and a deeper understanding of the mind. During tough times, you begin to see where your happiness was built on unstable foundations. You notice how much you relied on praise to feel confident, how much you relied on routine to feel secure, how much you relied on others to feel loved, how much you relied on control to feel calm. When these external sources crumble, it can feel like your world is falling apart. But what is actually happening is that life is removing the unhealthy attachments that were stealing your peace. This dismantling, though painful, is the beginning of real happiness. You learn that happiness cannot come from perfection because perfection is impossible. You learn that happiness cannot come from other people because people are temporary and imperfect. You learn that happiness cannot come from conditions because conditions always change. Instead, happiness grows from the ability to meet each moment with awareness, gratitude, acceptance, and openness. It grows from your relationship with yourself. It grows from learning to breathe through discomfort, process your emotions, observe your thoughts, and act from clarity rather than fear. Hardship becomes the training ground for inner joy. It teaches you to find beauty in small things, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of rain, the comfort of your breath, the softness of your bed, the kindness of a stranger, the moments of stillness in your day. It teaches you to appreciate life without needing it to be perfect. It teaches you to detach from things that cause suffering. It teaches you to value experiences over possessions, presence over productivity, connection over validation. One of the most powerful lessons tough times teach is that happiness is not a constant state. It is a state you return to. It's like the blue sky above the clouds. The clouds, your struggles, come and go, but the sky, your inner peace, is always there. When life is good, the sky is visible. When life is hard, the sky is hidden, but it never disappears. Your job is not to eliminate the clouds, but to remember the sky. Through suffering, you learn that happiness is deeply tied to acceptance. When you stop resisting reality, when you stop wishing things were different, you free your energy for gratitude and presence. Acceptance allows you to enjoy what is available instead of craving what is not. Acceptance is not giving up. It is allowing yourself to stop fighting a battle that brings no peace. In this acceptance, happiness grows naturally. You also begin to notice how much suffering comes from comparison. Tough times reveal that comparing your life to others is one of the fastest ways to lose your peace. When something in your life breaks, your finances, your health, your relationships, it becomes impossible to maintain the illusion that everyone is ahead of you and you are falling behind. You start to understand that everyone is struggling, everyone is healing, everyone is learning, and everyone carries invisible burdens. This understanding helps you release jealousy, envy, and feelings of inadequacy. You begin to feel lighter because you no longer measure your worth against others. Another powerful shift happens in your relationship with desire. Buddhism teaches that unexamined desire is a major source of suffering. You want more, you want what others have, you want something different from your current life, and these wants create constant dissatisfaction. But when life becomes difficult, your desires change. You no longer crave things that used to impress you. You crave peace, you crave clarity, you crave stability, you crave healing. Hard times simplify your desires, and this simplicity makes happiness more accessible. You realize you don't need much to feel whole. You need presence, peace, and a heart that is not at war with itself. And then, slowly, you begin to see the beauty in your own resilience. You realize that despite everything you went through, you are still here. You are still breathing. You are still trying. You are still learning. This realization awakens a sense of inner pride, not based on achievements, but on endurance. You begin to admire yourself for surviving what once seemed impossible. This self-respect becomes a form of happiness all on its own. The most profound realization, however, is this: happiness is not something the world owes you. Happiness is something you owe yourself. It is built through your choices, your awareness, your practices, and the way you treat your own mind. You learn to nurture inner peace the way you would nurture a plant, with patience, attention, and care. You learn to protect your mental space the way you would protect a sacred sanctuary. You learn to return to yourself again and again until the storms of life no longer pull you out of alignment. And one day, without forcing it, you notice something extraordinary. Life still has challenges. People still disappoint you. Plans still fail. Circumstances still shift. But your inner world feels different. You no longer break the way you used to. You no longer panic at the first sign of difficulty. You no longer rely on others to make you feel whole. You no longer wait for perfect moments to feel grateful. You no longer postpone your happiness. You carry it with you. This is the gift hidden inside tough times. They teach you that happiness is not something you find. It is something you build inside yourself. One breath, one thought, one moment at a time. And once you build it, no one can take it away. 13. Tough times reveal the attachments. You must release to become free. One of the most transformative teachings in Buddhism is the understanding that suffering is caused not by life itself, but by our attachment to how we believe life should be. Human beings cling to people, ideas, routines, identities, expectations, and imagined futures with such intensity that we mistake our attachments for truth. We believe that without certain people we cannot be whole. Without certain outcomes we cannot be fulfilled. Without certain identities we cannot be worthy. Without certain forms of stability we cannot feel safe. This clinging becomes the silent source of our suffering. Yet we rarely notice it until life creates circumstances that force us to loosen our grip. Tough times have a unique way of exposing the attachments we have built our lives around. When life becomes difficult, when plans fall apart, when relationships shift, when routines break, when possessions lose their meaning, when certainty disappears, our attachments reveal themselves with surprising clarity. Suddenly, the things we cling to so tightly begin to show their fragility. The people we depend on may disappoint us. The dreams we chase may no longer match our spirit. The roles we play may feel heavy and outdated. The expectations we place on ourselves may become impossible to sustain. And the world we built inside our minds begins to crumble. Not because life is cruel, but because life is teaching us to let go. Buddhism teaches that letting go is not an act of rejection. It is an act of liberation. You are not letting go because the things you love are unworthy. You are letting go because clinging to them is limiting the evolution of your soul. Tough times reveal these limitations by showing you exactly where your attachments have turned into chains. These chains make you fearful, anxious, insecure, and rigid. They prevent you from growing, adapting, and discovering who you are beneath the layers of identity you've constructed over the years. Hardship shakes these chains so you can finally see them. In our everyday lives, we cling to stories about ourselves. Stories about who we should be, what we should achieve, what we should accomplish by a certain age, and how others should perceive us. When life challenges these narratives through failure, rejection, change, or unexpected turns, we feel crushed because our identity is threatened. Yet these moments often reveal that the identity we were clinging to was never real to begin with. It was a mask built from societal expectations, childhood conditioning, and fear of judgment. Tough times strip away these masks so your authentic self can breathe again. Another form of attachment arises from the desire for control. We cling to the idea that if we plan everything carefully, life will follow our script. We hold on to the fantasy that our minds can control the unpredictable nature of existence. But when life disrupts our plans, we are forced to confront the truth. Control is an illusion. This realization is painful because it challenges one of the ego's strongest attachments, the attachment to certainty. However, releasing this attachment brings profound freedom. When you stop trying to force life to match your expectations, you begin to move with life instead of struggling against it. You learn to trust the flow rather than fight it. Tough times also reveal our emotional attachments. Many people attach their sense of worth to how others treat them. They attach their peace to someone else's approval. They attach their happiness to relationships that may not be healthy. They attach their stability to situations that drain their energy. Hardship exposes these attachments by creating situations where people leave, relationships change, or support systems break. While this can feel deeply painful, it opens the doorway to emotional independence. You begin to understand that no person, no matter how important, can be the foundation of your peace. Peace must come from within your own being. One of the most surprising attachments tough times reveal is the attachment to suffering itself. Some people cling to their wounds, their past, their fears, or their insecurities because these emotions feel familiar. They become part of one's internal identity. But when life becomes difficult, these attachments become too heavy to carry. You start to realize that holding on to old pain is draining your life force. Hardship forces you to confront these inner attachments and consider the possibility of releasing them, letting go of old narratives, old traumas, old resentments, and old versions of yourself that are no longer aligned with your growth. Letting go is not easy. It requires deep courage, self-honesty, and patience. It requires facing the discomfort that arises when old beliefs collapse. It requires grieving the loss of what once felt safe. It requires stepping into the unknown without guarantees. But the process of letting go is also one of the most liberating experiences you will ever have. When attachments dissolve, space opens inside you, space for clarity, peace, intuition, and a new direction. In Buddhism, this space is called emptiness, and it is not a negative condition. It is the fertile ground of transformation. When your mind becomes empty of clinging, it becomes open to life. It becomes adaptable, fluid, creative, and receptive. You are no longer weighed down by rigid expectations. You move through the world with greater freedom because you are no longer trying to control everything around you. You begin to experience a profound sense of peace that comes from alignment, not from attachment. Hard times make this possible by breaking the illusions you once depended on. They show you that you can survive without the things you thought you needed. They reveal that your strength does not come from external circumstances, but from the resilience of your spirit. They teach you that your value cannot be determined by other people. They guide you toward a deeper relationship with yourself, one that is based on authenticity rather than dependency. As you begin releasing attachments, you notice subtle shifts within yourself. You become more patient because your happiness is no longer tied to outcomes. You become more compassionate because you understand how much others cling to their own illusions. You become more peaceful because you no longer resist the natural flow of life. You become more present because you are not constantly chasing or fearing something. You become more grounded because you trust that whatever leaves your life is making space for something more aligned. And then, one day, sometimes suddenly, sometimes gradually, you realize that you feel lighter. The weight you carried for years is gone. The fear you once lived with has softened. The expectations that controlled you have loosened. The desperation that once drove your decisions has faded. You have become someone who moves through life with calm confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer chained to perfection. This is the gift tough times bring. They give you the chance to break free from attachments that were silently shaping your suffering. They reveal what you must release in order to rise. They show you that letting go is not losing, it is evolving. You become someone who understands the quiet truth that happiness, peace, and purpose cannot coexist with clinging. They grow naturally only in a heart that has learned to let life move freely. The moment you realize this truth, you step into a new chapter of spiritual maturity. You become someone who is not shaken by the winds of life because your roots are planted deep within your own awareness. not in the unstable soil of external attachments. You walk with greater clarity, greater compassion, and greater inner stability. You understand that whatever stays, stays with love. Whatever leaves, leaves with purpose. And whatever arrives, arrives in divine timing. Through the release of attachments, you finally discover what Buddhism has taught all along. Freedom is not something life gives you. Freedom is something you create by letting go of everything that holds your spirit captive. 14. Tough times. Break your old self, so your true self can finally emerge. Every human being carries two versions of themselves within one lifetime. The self shaped by fear, conditioning, and the expectations of others, and the self shaped by awareness, truth, and inner freedom. But most people spend years, sometimes decades, living as their old self, the version of them built from habits, wounds, survival mechanisms, social pressure, and unconscious patterns. This old self is not who you truly are. It is who you became to feel safe in a world that did not always understand or support you. Buddhism teaches that the process of awakening, true awakening, requires a breaking of this old self. And the breaking usually happens through pain, difficulty, and life's toughest moments. Tough times do not come to ruin you. They come to strip away what is not really you. They come to burn away all the layers you outgrew but kept wearing because they were familiar. They come to reveal your truth, your depth, your potential, your resilience, and your authentic identity. But before this new self can emerge, the old must crumble. And this crumbling, though spiritually necessary, can feel like losing everything. When life becomes difficult, when relationships break, when your career shifts, when identity collapses, when people disappoint you, when your confidence shakes, when your plans fall apart, that is the moment the old self begins to break. You may feel like you are falling apart, but in reality, you are falling open. The shell that once protected you has become too small for who you are becoming. You cannot evolve inside the same mental and emotional cage you built when you were wounded, afraid, or trying to fit in. Life must shake that cage until it cracks. The old self is built from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of abandonment, fear of judgment, fear of change. Because of this fear, you created identities and behaviors to survive. You may have become the people-pleaser who changed themselves to be loved, or the strong one who never asked for help, or the perfectionist who didn't allow mistakes, or the quiet one who hid their feelings, or the tough one who suppressed their vulnerability. These survival identities were useful once, but they limit your growth when you cling to them long after they have served their purpose. Tough times expose these identities by putting pressure on everything false. When the old self can no longer hold the weight of your life experience, it begins to crack. You feel emotional discomfort, confusion, uncertainty, and vulnerability. These feelings are not signs of weakness, they are signs of transformation. They show you what needs to be released, healed, or redefined. You start questioning everything you once held as truth. Your worth, your beliefs, your desires, your values, your purpose, your relationships, your boundaries, your dreams. This questioning is not a breakdown, it is a breakthrough. This inner breaking is painful because it dismantles the parts of you that once felt safe. You begin to let go of beliefs that kept you small. You realize that your old dreams were not really yours. They belonged to society, to your parents, to your fears, or to your past self. You understand that certain relationships were based on the person you used to be, not the person you are becoming. You see that certain habits kept you numb, not happy. You become aware of your patterns, how you push people away, how you seek validation, how you avoid discomfort, how you run from silence, how you sabotage your peace. The old self resists this awareness because it does not want to die. But the deeper truth is that the old self cannot survive the light of awareness. It dissolves as you awaken. Buddhism teaches that transformation is not about adding more to yourself. It is about removing what blocks your true nature. Your true self is peaceful, grounded, compassionate, patient, wise, and aware. These qualities already exist within you. They are not something you have to earn. They are who you are beneath your wounds. Tough times reveal this truth by forcing you to confront what covers your true self. Fear, ego, attachments, conditioning, insecurities, illusions, and old emotional scars. As these layers break, your authentic spirit begins to rise. This breaking also teaches humility. When life challenges you, when you stumble, when your ego is shaken, you become more open to learning. You stop pretending to be okay. You stop clinging to pride. You become more honest about your needs, your emotions, your past, and your vulnerabilities. This humility softens your heart. It creates space for compassion, forgiveness, and deeper connection with others. The true self is never arrogant. It is quiet, steady, and real. One of the most profound shifts during this breaking is the awakening of self-awareness. You begin to see yourself clearly, not as the world shaped you, but as you truly are. You start recognizing your patterns in real time. You watch your reactions instead of becoming them. You notice your triggers and understand their roots. You see how your past influences your present, and you consciously choose not to repeat old cycles. This is the beginning of self-mastery, and it does not happen in comfort. It happens in the fire of adversity. Tough times also awaken your inner strength. Not the surface strength of pretending to be okay, but the deep, spiritual strength that comes from surviving yourself. You learn that you can sit with uncomfortable emotions without running. You learn that you can face loss without collapsing. You learn that you can survive disappointment without losing your sense of worth. You learn that you can endure loneliness without betraying your truth. This strength becomes part of your new self. It is quiet but unshakable. As the old self dissolves, something beautiful begins to form within you. Clarity. Clarity about what you value. Clarity about what brings you peace. Clarity about who belongs in your life. Clarity about what you want to build. Clarity about what you will no longer tolerate. Clarity about your purpose. This clarity is not loud. It is gentle and steady. It comes from listening to your inner being rather than external noise. Another profound transformation emerges from this breaking: freedom. When you let go of who you were taught to be, you become free to be who you truly are. You are no longer driven by fear. You no longer abandon yourself to be accepted. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You no longer chase validation. You no longer settle for less than what nourishes your soul. You begin choosing based on truth, not habit. Based on alignment, not fear. This level of freedom cannot be given by the world. It must be earned through the inner journey of breaking and becoming. And then, after the storms, after the confusion, after the emotional unraveling, after the silence, something extraordinary happens. A new self emerges. A self that is stronger but softer. A self that is wiser but humbler. A self that is compassionate but not self-sacrificing. A self that carries peace, not because life is easy, but because you are no longer controlled by life's difficulty. A self that trusts the flow. A self that sees beauty in simplicity. A self that feels whole even when life is imperfect. This new self is your real self, the self that was buried beneath years of conditioning, fear, and survival. This is the self that knows how to love deeply, forgive naturally, speak truthfully, and walk peacefully. This is the self that can handle life's challenges with grace because it is grounded in awareness, not ego. This is the self that does not break when the world shakes because it is rooted in something unshakable, your inner truth. This is why tough times are sacred, not because they are pleasant, but because they are purifying. They refine you. They remove what is false. They awaken what is real. They reveal your strength, your wisdom, your compassion, your courage, and your purpose. They help you remember who you truly are. You do not become your new self by avoiding the breaking. You become your new self by walking through it with presence, patience, and trust. The breaking is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the moment of awakening. It is the doorway to your highest self. And when you emerge, you realize that nothing was lost except the parts of you that were never meant to stay. 15. Tough times. Teach you to walk through life with detachment, grace, and inner freedom. One of the most transformative teachings in Buddhism is the principle of detachment, not in the sense of not caring, but in the sense of caring without clinging, loving without losing yourself, acting without attachment to the result, and moving through life with grace no matter what arises. But most people misunderstand detachment. They think it means becoming cold, emotionless, distant, or unfeeling. In truth, detachment is the opposite. It is the ability to remain open-hearted without being controlled by fear, desire, or outcomes. It is the ability to stay peaceful even when life is unpredictable. It is the ability to move with life rather than being emotionally shattered each time life changes direction. And nothing teaches the art of detachment more powerfully than tough times. The reason suffering feels so heavy is because we cling to everything: people, expectations, stories, outcomes, routines, identities, past memories, imagined futures, and the idea of how life should be. When life forces change upon us, these attachments are jolted and we feel shaken, disappointed, or heartbroken. But difficult seasons reveal an uncomfortable truth. The pain we feel often comes not from the situation itself, but from our resistance to it. Resistance is what exhausts the heart. Resistance is what tightens the mind. Resistance is what creates emotional chaos, and detachment is the release of that resistance. Hard times push you toward detachment by showing you that clinging only multiplies suffering. You cling to someone who is clearly drifting away, hoping your attachment can hold them in place, yet you suffer even more. You cling to a past that cannot return, replaying memories that keep your heart stuck in what no longer exists. You cling to expectations that life refuses to meet, creating disappointment where acceptance could bring peace. You cling to identities that no longer fit you, creating internal conflict where growth could occur. When life becomes difficult, these forms of clinging become too heavy to carry, and eventually your spirit reaches a point where it whispers, "Let it go, let it flow, let it be." Detachment is not walking away from life. It is walking into life with clarity. It is experiencing everything fully while letting nothing imprison your soul. It is building relationships with love, not ownership. It is pursuing goals with passion, not desperation. It is allowing change with courage, not fear. It is living from a place of trust rather than control. Tough times force you to learn this because your old methods of coping, clinging, forcing, resisting, controlling no longer work. You are pushed toward a new way of being. When you begin practicing detachment, even unintentionally, you start noticing changes within yourself. You become less reactive. You stop taking everything personally. You stop arguing with reality. You stop expecting people to be who they are not. You stop chasing after things that harm your peace. You stop attaching your worth to outcomes. You stop believing that every emotion requires a reaction. You begin to see life as a flowing river rather than a structure that must be held in place. This is the awakening of inner freedom. Inner freedom is the ability to remain centered no matter what is happening around you. It is the realization that your peace is internal, not external. It comes from your relationship with your own mind. It comes from your understanding of impermanence, the truth that everything changes, everything shifts, everything moves. In Buddhism, impermanence is not seen as something frightening. It is seen as a reminder to appreciate the present moment without clinging to it. Tough times highlight this truth by showing you how quickly life can change, and how important it is to remain grounded within yourself. As you learn detachment, you also learn acceptance. Acceptance does not mean passivity or weakness. It means acknowledging what is real without mentally fighting it. It means seeing reality clearly rather than through the lens of your fears or desires. Acceptance gives you access to peace in moments where resistance would only deepen suffering. Acceptance allows you to adapt instead of break. Acceptance opens your mind to solutions you could not see when you were resisting what life was showing you. But one of the most powerful aspects of detachment is how it transforms your relationships. When you stop clinging to people, when you stop expecting them to fulfill every emotional need, when you stop fearing their absence, when you stop relying on them for your worth, you actually become a better partner, friend, sibling, son, or daughter. You begin to love without suffocating, support without controlling, care without needing constant reassurance. You stop demanding permanence from people who are also evolving. You begin to value presence over possession. This creates relationships that are healthier, freer, and more authentic. Detachment also teaches you to release the need for constant validation. You no longer rely on others to approve your decisions, praise your achievements, or reassure you that you matter. You begin to feel whole from within. This inner wholeness is one of the most profound forms of freedom because it cannot be taken from you. No rejection, no criticism, no changing circumstances can rob you of a sense of worth that is not attached to external sources. Perhaps one of the hardest forms of detachment is learning to detach from the version of yourself you used to be. Many people cling to outdated self-images. The successful one, the strong one, the quiet one, the one who never made mistakes, the one who always had everything together. But life changes you. Pain reshapes you. Growth transforms you. Detachment asks you to let go of who you were so you can embrace who you are becoming. This is not a loss. It is an evolution. It is the shedding of old layers so your soul can breathe more freely. As you continue to walk through hardship, detachment slowly becomes a natural part of your life. You begin to approach situations with spaciousness rather than intensity. You respond instead of reacting. You observe your emotions rather than drowning in them. You allow yourself to feel deeply without letting the feeling consume your inner stability. You learn to move with life the way a tree moves with the wind, flexible, grounded, and unbroken. Eventually, something extraordinary happens. What once overwhelmed you begins to feel lighter. The situations that once triggered you lose their grip. The people who once controlled your emotions no longer have the same power. The uncertainties that once terrified you no longer create panic. You begin living from a place of inner spaciousness, where peace does not depend on conditions, but on your ability to stay aligned with your truth. This inner spaciousness is the essence of spiritual detachment. You are not indifferent. You are independent. You are not disconnected. You are deeply connected without being lost in the connection. You are not emotionless. You feel everything with clarity rather than confusion. You are not detached from life. You are detached from the illusions that once caused suffering. And then, without forcing it, without chasing it, without grasping for it, you begin to experience a new kind of joy, quiet, steady, and free. A joy that comes from being present rather than being in control. A joy that grows from living authentically rather than pleasing others. A joy that expands from trusting life rather than fearing change. This joy is different from the fleeting happiness that depends on circumstances. It is a deeper, calmer, more enduring state that follows you wherever you go. This is the joy of inner freedom. Tough times teach you this because they remove everything you used to cling to until the only place left to stand is within yourself. And from that place, your center, your awareness, your truth, you begin to walk through life differently. You become someone who cannot be shaken easily, someone who does not break in every storm, someone who breathes deeply even when life tests them, someone who loves without attachment, acts without fear, grows without resistance, and moves with the flow of life rather than against it. This is why detachment is not coldness, it is liberation. It is the highest form of love for yourself and for the world. It is the transformation of suffering into wisdom. It is the rebirth of your spirit. It is the return to your true nature. And it is one of the greatest gifts tough times will ever give you. If you look back at your life with honest eyes, you will notice something profound. The moments that shaped you the most were never the easy ones. They were the nights you cried alone, the days you questioned everything, the seasons where life felt too heavy to carry, the moments when you broke, fell, failed, or were forced to let go of someone or something you loved. These moments, at the time, felt like punishments. They felt unfair, painful, and unbearable. But now, with the clarity of hindsight, you can see something you couldn't see before. Those moments were turning points. They were spiritual awakenings. They were hidden invitations to grow into someone wiser, stronger, calmer, softer, deeper, and more awake. Life rarely teaches you through comfort. It teaches you through contrast. You understand peace because you have felt chaos. You value joy because you have tasted sorrow. You appreciate clarity because you have walked through confusion. You choose growth because remaining the same began to hurt too much. In Buddhism, suffering is not seen as a flaw in the human experience. It is seen as the doorway to awakening. Without discomfort, you would never question your patterns. Without loss, you would never learn detachment. Without disappointment, you would never learn acceptance. Without uncertainty, you would never discover your inner wisdom. Without difficulty, you would never find your inner strength. This entire journey, every challenge, every setback, every heartbreak, has been guiding you toward one destination, your true self. Not the self shaped by fear, not the self shaped by expectations, not the self shaped by trauma or survival, but the self shaped by awareness, compassion, resilience, and inner freedom. The self that sees life clearly, the self that trusts the flow, the self that knows how to remain peaceful even when life is not. The self that understands that everything is temporary, that everything is connected, that everything is always guiding you toward growth. Each lesson you learned in these tough seasons was a blessing in disguise. Pain showed you what needed healing. Uncertainty taught you inner stability. Loss taught you the power of letting go. Failure taught you humility and resilience. Loneliness taught you how to befriend your own heart. Disappointment taught you the reality of impermanence. And every ending prepared you for a beginning you could not yet see. Life was not breaking you, it was shaping you. You were not falling apart, you were falling into alignment. You were not losing everything, you were losing what was blocking your path. All along, you were being guided. All along, you were being strengthened. All along, you were being prepared for a version of yourself you could not have become without walking through the fire. Tough times do not come to destroy you. They come to peel away the layers that no longer serve your evolution. They force you to release old identities, old relationships, old patterns, and old beliefs so you can rise into a more authentic life. Now you are standing at a new threshold. You are no longer who you used to be. You are wiser, you are stronger, you are more awake. You understand yourself more deeply. You trust yourself more fully. You move through life with more awareness and more compassion. You no longer break so easily because you have learned to bend. You no longer fear being alone because you have learned to meet yourself. You no longer cling to the past because you have learned to flow with the present. You no longer resist change because you have learned that change is life itself. This is the true gift of your hardest seasons. They transformed you from the inside out. They taught you how to walk through the world with an open heart and a steady mind. They taught you how to remain calm in storms. They taught you how to detach from illusions. They taught you how to build happiness from within. They taught you how to carry peace wherever you go. and they taught you that your spirit is far more powerful and far more resilient than you ever imagined. So if your life feels hard right now, if you are in the middle of one of those seasons where nothing makes sense, remember this: you are not being punished. You are being prepared. Something inside you is awakening. Something inside you is growing. Something inside you is being reborn. You are evolving into someone you could not have become without walking through exactly what you are walking through now. One day, you will look back on this season with gratitude, not because it was easy, but because it changed you forever. You will realize that the tough times were not obstacles. They were teachers. They were not curses. They were blessings. They were not the end of your story. They were the beginning of a new chapter. And through it all, you are learning the most important truth of all. You are stronger than your past, wiser than your pain, and more capable than your fear. And your future is quietly waiting for the version of you that is being shaped right now. Life doesn't break you. It breaks everything you are not, so your true self can finally rise.